And eventually you would wear them down like a process of erosion. And if you were fortunate, they would buy a little bit and then buy a little bit more and so on. What we've learned now is it's completely different. Today it's not here I am again, but it's today each call has to be carefully planned and has to have very specific parts to the call. There has to be something different that you do each time. You can't just show up and say, here I am again. You have to plan each call as part of a continuing process, and you have to understand the process. And what Neil Rackham determined, and he put this into his book and some of his articles, he called it spin selling. And spin selling is an acronym. S-P-I-N is an acronym, which we'll talk about. S stands for situation analysis. And of course, we know that this is essential, although many people start to sell with the assumption the person exists, so therefore they'll buy. The very best salespeople start to sell by asking a lot of questions and attempting to understand clearly the customer situation. The second is problem identification. P stands for problem identification. We know, and we'll come to this in a second, but we know that customers buy to solve problems. So therefore, you have to find the problem. The very best salespeople are those who can uncover the problem. The third part is implication. Now, the implication part is where you ask questions to discover the depth of the problem. A person says, I don't feel well. Well, that's a minor problem. If a person says, with question, that I don't feel well in this specific way at this specific time, so therefore it is a major illness that requires major treatment, then it's different. When a person says, well, this machine isn't working too well, then the question you have to ask is, what does that mean? What are the implications of it? How does it affect production of the departments? Does it cause bottlenecks and slowdowns and people not working? Is it a big problem or a small problem? So the implication part is very important. And finally, the last part is what is called the need benefit or the need payoff. In other words, what does the person get that satisfies the need? What's the payoff? And so this spin formula works very well, and it's a good model that you should be familiar with. There are just a couple of problems with spin based on my own personal experience. First of all, it's very easy to explain, and it sounds very logical, so people like it. But second of all, it's very hard to teach. We find that people who sell this way, who use this spin formula, are people who learned it intuitively and naturally, and they haven't learned it as a result of teaching. And here's the third part, it's very hard to learn. You may want to become more capable at these 4 stages, but it's just not that easy. Nonetheless, it's very important that you understand. So let's go back and let's start with number 1, situation analysis. Now, situation analysis is pretty simple. It means that you want to know what the customer's current activities are with regard to your product or service. If you were a doctor of selling, which we talk about in other sessions, a doctor of selling always does an examination. And the examination is to find out the customer's current state, if you like, their blood pressure, their heart rate, their respiratory rate, the ears and eyes, and so on. So you want to find out what they're doing. What are they doing now? And the more you ask about this, and the more you attempt to genuinely understand what they're doing, and another question that you have to ask is why are they doing what they're doing now? Why have they chosen this particular method? Are they happy with this method? Is it something they've backed in or inherited? We know this, that top customers of top salespeople describe top salespeople in this way. They say, he or she really understands my situation. Stephen Covey is famous for his habit of highly effective people, where he says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Your job in the initial stage, in building a relationship, in establishing rapport, in building trust and credibility, is to focus all of your efforts on understanding what the customer is doing now. And once you understand what the customer is doing now, the third part of situation analysis is finding out what his or her plans are for the future. You see, all of us live in terms of futurity. We don't live in terms of the past except for regret. So therefore, you want to find out what they plan to do tomorrow, what their goals are, and of course, you're looking for a way to insinuate your product or service into their planning. The first part of situation analysis has to do with questions. And questions, there are 2 types. There are personal questions, and there are what you might call business questions. Now, here's the big mistake that